You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be your mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be your street light, showing you the way home. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. If we want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seed, plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love we receive. If you want a garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, yeah, everyone belongs. Everyone belongs. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. And bring us back together when the day is done.
Thank you, Paula. I love that song. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Emily Bruce. I'm the minister of this congregation. I'm very happy to see you all here today. Whether it's your first time or your 1,000th time or somewhere in between, you are welcome here, and we are happy to have all of your smiling faces in our worship this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of diverse beliefs, but we share a common faith, a faith that every single person is worthy of love, a faith that what we do in and for our world today, now, really matters, and a faith that we are connected by an interdependent web to each other and to our earth. So whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here with us this morning. In a moment, our worship will begin, but as always, I do have a few announcements. First, I'm delighted to welcome Claire-Karl Muller from UU Mass Action, who will be giving us our sermon today. Some of you may remember that they visited us last year, and we're delighted to have them back in the pulpit. So, welcome. They're back there. I promise. This coming Wednesday, April 10th, is our monthly contemplative worship service. It's at 5:30 p.m. right here in the meeting house. It's a 30-minute service of music, contemplative silence, a few readings, and a ritual or two, and all are welcome to join. Again, this Wednesday, April 10th, from 5:30 to 6 p.m. right here in the meeting house. And the theme of this month's service, in deference to the eclipse, is celestial navigation. So come find out what that's all about. Next Saturday, April 13th, is what? Thank you. The lasagna dinner, one of our biggest fundraisers and biggest fundraiser, I should say, if I'm being cheeky, of the year. So Saturday the 13th at 6 p.m. There's a bunch of information in your order of service. There's a sign-up linked in the newsletter. But the number one thing we need the most, ironically, is lasagnas. So if you bring a lasagna to the lasagna dinner, you don't have to buy a ticket to the lasagna dinner. So just a heads up. I know, it's a great deal, right? So if you are at all inclined, if you have a family recipe, or even if you don't, and you want to make a lasagna for our lasagna dinner, please do so. Christina Randall, raise your hand if you would, is your contact go-to #1 chief in charge of the lasagna dinner, so feel free to talk to her. Sorry, I just gave you like 7 titles, but yeah. So, but regardless of your skill at making lasagna, I hope you will join us. There's a huge silent auction and a live auction. It is tons of fun, and a good time is always had by all. So next Saturday at 6 p.m. in Sampson Hall. And now I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. If you have not yet silenced your cell phone, would you please take a moment right now and do that? Maybe even check it if you think you've already silenced it. And join me in taking a deep breath in and out. Let's do that one more time. In and out. You're here, you're safe, you're warm, and we are going to have a wonderful hour of worship together. Thank you for being here. And leave your to-do list and your email and everything else that's weighing on your mind right now. Put it aside. Join me in taking one more deep breath in and out. And let our worship begin. This morning we light our chalice with these words by Reverend Carol Thomas Sissel. We are one. We are family. We are connected by blood and bone, mind and heart, and sometimes bricks and mortar. Like the finest woven tapestries of old and the spices blended and stirred into our family's secret recipes, our lives are intentionally intertwined. And we are fashioned into a stronger community by those connections. This interlacing, intertwining, and intermingling of our existence makes each of us whole. This interlacing of our lives makes us whole, happiness and sorrow. This intertwining of our lives makes us whole, blessings and burdens. This intermingling of our lives makes us whole, lament and laughter. May we allow the magic and mystery, often named Spirit, to keep us connected long after today's service has ended. So come. Let us worship together this morning. And now please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, number 318, We Would Be One, in the gray hymnal.
As now we join in singing.
Friends, will you now join me in a moment of prayer? Spirit of life, God of love, great mystery of this universe, today and in the days ahead, help us ground ourselves in what is true and life-giving. In the wide embrace of the love larger than any one of us, we hold all those in need of healing in body or spirit, that they may find some relief from suffering. We give our attention and thanks and celebration for the joys of our lives that remind us of just how much there is to be grateful for, how many blessings are in our midst. And we lift up those places of injustice and brokenness in our world, Gaza, Ukraine, and every place on this earth where unjust oppression is exerted upon the innocent. And we give our thanks for this earth, which never abandons us, returning with new life in the spring to draw us out of our winters of isolation and despondency. And we ask with humility for the continued courage, creativity, and compassion to help create a world where all people have access to the gifts of life, the gifts of this beautiful planet, Earth. In the name of the love that surpasses all understanding, we pray this morning. Amen. Please join me in singing side 2 of May Love Be Your Guide.
First Nations Survival and the Future of the Earth by Rebecca Adamson, Cherokee. The interdependency of humankind, the relevance for relationship, the sacredness of creation is returning as a fact of life. It is ancient, ancient wisdom. More than any single issue, economic development is the battle line between two competing worldviews. Tribal peoples' fundamental value was with sustainability, and they conducted their livelihoods in ways that sustained resources and limited inequalities in their societies. What made traditional economies so radically different and so fundamentally dangerous to Western economies were the traditional principles of prosperity of creation versus scarcity of resources, of sharing and distribution versus accumulation and greed, of kinship usage rights versus individual exclusive ownership rights, and of sustainability versus growth.
When we give, we say yes to something we value. In this congregation, we take up an offering each week to say yes to the values of our UU faith and yes to this beloved community. Today, our offering in its entirety will be given to UU Mass Action. Founded in 2005, UU Mass Action is the state action network for Massachusetts, organizing and mobilizing 20,000 Unitarian Universalists and over 142 UU congregations to confront oppression and create equity in our state of Massachusetts. As UUs, we are called to put our values and our principles into action Together, we create a just world by confronting systems of oppression. UU Mass Action's role is to organize all of us UUs to work collectively so that together we can create the change that we seek. Their core campaigns include environmental and climate justice, decarceration and ending solitary, economic and housing justice, immigration justice, and Indigenous justice. So I invite you to please give as you are able. Today's offering will be gratefully received, and our offering anthem is Children of the Universe by Jason Shelton.
Children of the human race, offspring of our Mother Earth, not alone in endless space, has our planet given birth. Far across the cosmic skies, countless suns in glory blaze, and from untold planets rise, endless canticles of praise. Should some sign of others reach this our lonely planet Earth, differences of form and speech must not hide our common worth. When at last our minds are free and the clouds of fear disperse, then at last we'll learn to be children of the universe. Children of the human race, children of the human offspring of our Mother, offspring of our Mother, not alone in endless space, as our planet given birth. When at last our minds are free, and the clouds of fear disperse, then at last we'll learn to be children of the universe, children of the universe.
Good morning. It's good to be here again. Thank you so much for the invitation to return. Don't tell anyone else, but I think you're my favorite congregation. I felt such a warm feeling driving down this morning. I forget if I told you all last year, but I grew up down the road in Duxbury, and it just feels like such a homecoming when I get to visit. And you all have been so friendly, and it's so clear that your congregation has such a warmth to it. So again, thank you for having me. For those of you who I haven't met, again, my name is Claire-Karl. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the Movement Building Director at UU Mass Action. Today, I want to talk about the problems facing us as a society and how I believe that Indigenous justice is the antidote, and that we have a role to play in solidarity with Indigenous justice, and how there's some key work happening at UU Mass Action that you're invited to join us on. Before I do that, I do want to share a little bit about how I'm grounded into this work. So based on my research, I am at least 11 kinds of European. Irish, Welsh, Scottish, English, French, German, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Eastern European, and the Balkans. So maybe we're cousins. And I've always been the type of person who wanted to have a deep connection with the past. I wanted to have a deep connection with song, with story, with traditions. And so growing up, when I started to realize all of this, I got really confused. Like, who am I? And where is home? Is it in Europe? Is it here on the South Shore? And I think that's part of why, as a child, I was always very interested and attracted to Native Americans and their culture. I felt like I had my nose pressed up against the glass of what was happening over there. Can I come? Can I have a spirit animal? If you've ever, if you went to the Kingston Mall in the 90s, maybe you also, like me, there was a store that had dream catchers and rocks and little totems. Oh, I went there every time my mother took me to the mall. And as an adult, I've come to realize that part of this feeling that I'm having is rooted in the fact that I'm actually pretty unhappy living under the status quo. I'm lonely, I'm stressed about money, my health, my family, the climate, the state of our democracy, just to name a few. Perhaps you are also worrying about those things. I find it always easier to do it in a group setting. These are all part of the dominant worldview: colonialist, racial, capitalism. And at UMass Action, we always like to name that, to put our finger on the root of that problem, because without really naming it, it's hard to fix it, it's hard to heal it. And I do put all of those words together, that colonialist, racial, capitalism, because they are interlocked. The system of never-ending extraction for profit, for growth, is possible because of racism, because of colonialism, because some people, some lands are considered less than, more okay to exploit. And we've seen this in Massachusetts as well, across the globe. We're not immune. And so that's the dominant system, and sometimes it can be easy to forget that it's not the only possible one, and in fact is quite young. Many folks don't know, but anti-blackness, white supremacy was only invented in the 1400s. It's pretty young. Capitalism in its form today that has that intensity to it was really only honed under slavery. It's only a couple hundred years old. This is by no means the dominant way that humans have lived. Last year, I read a book called Restoring the Kinship Worldview. Indigenous voices introduce 28 precepts for rebalancing life. I meant to bring it with me, but I forgot. It's really good. I highly recommend it. There are, in fact, an estimated 370 million Indigenous people spread out across the world in 70 different countries. Many folks don't know there are Indigenous people in Europe called the Sami. And they are definitely not all the same. And so when I say Indigenous people, I don't mean like they're all like one monolithic group. But it is a grouping. There are common threads. And this book, with its 28 chapters, touches upon 28 values, ways of living that are common, and things that we, or I, as a non-Native person, could learn to live by. Actually, one of the things I love about it is because I really see our UU values completely line up with these ways of living. They're core to being human and every human civilization, I think, gravitates towards them. But one chapter in particular really struck me, and it's called Generosity as a Way of Life. In this chapter, it shared this piece about Christopher Columbus that I had never heard before. Apparently, when he arrived, he was so confused by the generosity of the Native Americans he encountered and later murdered and enslaved, that he actually wrote back to King Ferdinand of Spain, quote, "They're so naive and they're so free with their possessions that no one who has not witnessed it could believe it. When you ask them for something they have, they never say no." And I've actually heard people echo this experience when they've traveled to places that have a deeper entrenchment in generosity. That if you say to someone, "Wow, I really like your scarf," they're like, "Here, take it." And you're like, "Whoa, that's not what I meant." But can you imagine when Christopher Columbus gets there and he's like, "Well, I really like your gold and I really like all of your money." And they're like, "Okay, you're here, you're a guest, we're inviting you." Like, what a mind twist, right? That's what happens when a taking mindset meets a group of people who have a giving mindset. There's a take, take. It was actually pretty soon after I read this chapter and was grappling with it. I was up in New Hampshire with my partner skiing, and it was getting darker, it was getting cold. I put on my hat and we're, shopping, walking down Main Street. We're like exhausted from the mountain. And we go into one of the cute little stores on Main Street. And as soon as we walk in, I see the woman behind the counter. Her eyes light up at the sight of me. And she goes, "That hat, where did you get it?" And in that moment, I thought, okay, I'm gonna go for it. And what proceeded to happen was the most awkward dance of me going, "Take it." And she's like, "No." I'm like, I really want you to have it. She's like, "No." And I finally convinced her. I was like, "I really want you to have it." Like, you lit up. I started disparaging it a little bit. I'm like, "It's not even my color. I don't wear blue." To try and get her to take it. It was hilarious. And it just nailed for me how unused to this type of generosity we are. That it can be so difficult to have spontaneous moments of generosity with strangers, especially. But it felt so good. I left feeling lighter, more grounded in my values, like I had really moved a tiny bit closer to who I want to be. For those of us who've grown up in this sort of dominant taking worldview, it can feel really awkward. But I'd like to imagine a Massachusetts that's really based in generosity. Imagine our public policy based in this. If you need affordable housing, we'll get it to you. If you need healthy food, done. Affordable childcare, of course. Public transportation, medical leave, disability support. We got you. What a relief that would be. To feel like you could actually get your needs met if you needed them, if you came on hard times and you knew that the generosity would be there. Now, of course, some of this culture lives amongst us. I really think of our congregations as one of the places where this is cultivated. Last year, one of our board members, actually in the Duxbury congregation, she broke her leg. And she had just gotten a new puppy. So you can imagine that could be challenging. And I remember reaching out to her and saying, I don't know what I could do, but is there anything, that we can do to support you? And she said, I'm good. My congregation made a schedule. There's people coming every time that my dog needs a walk. I'm taken care of. And I just got like goosebumps of like, yes, this is what this is meant to be like. That you don't have to hire a dog walker, you don't have to pay for the services, but that we support one another when a challenge comes. What if all of Massachusetts operated like that as a whole? What if that were built into the very foundation of everything that we do? There's a Dakota elder, Ella DeLorio, who's quoted in this chapter in the book. And she says, the aim of the old Dakota economic system and that of the white man's are one and the same, incongruous as that sounds when we compare the two systems for achieving it. It's security. That's the aim. Food, clothing, shelter, and old age free from want. All peoples need that. It is what they struggle for in their respective ways. But the two systems in question are irreconcilable. They go counter to each other. One says, in effect, get now all you can, as you can, for yourself, and so ensure security for yourself. If all will do this, then everyone will be safe. And that system depends on things, primarily. The other system said, give to others. Let gifts flow freely out, and they will flow freely back to you again. In the universal and endless stream of giving, this is bound to be so. And that system depended mostly on human beings, relationships, friends, and relatives. Yikes. That does seem quite different. And given the future that we face when I turn on the news, I'll tell you, it's easy for me to choose which system I want to live in. And here in Massachusetts, we've got a good start, but we have a long ways to go. UMass Action is part of the Mass Indigenous legislative agenda. It's a coalition with 2 Indigenous organizations, as well as tribal leadership from Mashpee, Nipmuc, and others. And here, it's especially salient being in Plymouth County. We've got 400 years to repair, to heal from when the Mayflower came. I'm actually also descended from the Mayflower. Anybody cousin? Nice. I sometimes dream about, what it would have looked like if my ancestors on the Mayflower had arrived and said, we're fleeing some bad stuff. Could we live here? Could we live together? If that Thanksgiving myth were like a little more true, I imagine how different things would be now. But that doesn't mean we can't fix it now. So I want to tell you about the work we're doing in this coalition with Indigenous leaders. There's 5 bills at the State House, and they are no-brainers. The first 3 have to do with our public school system. Number 1, no more using Native Americans as mascots. There are still a couple dozen public schools in Massachusetts that use Native American imagery. Braintree, close to where I live now, their mascot is the Womps, which is unfortunate. The research shows that using these stereotypes is not only bad for Indigenous folks, but also for settlers. We get the wrong idea in our minds. So it would ban that use. No more racist mascots. Number 2 would be to consult with Indigenous people, with the tribes, to develop a curriculum that would teach the truth about Indigenous people, where they've been, where they are now. Growing up in the Duxbury public school system, I'm pretty sure all I learned about was Thanksgiving and the three sisters, the beans, the corn, and the squash. Nothing in particular about the actual lived experience, and certainly not that they were alive now. This bill would change all that. And the third bill is about looking into the educational outcomes of Native youth in our public schools. Anecdotally, we don't think they're doing well, but this commission would actually look into their outcomes and, assuming we find disparities, figure out what we are going to do about it. So those 3 bills are about our public schools. The 4th bill is regarding sacred objects. Many universities, museums still have a lot of cultural objects that were stolen from Native Americans in their collections, and they're considered assets, something that's valuable. This bill would close a loophole that's in our federal law and make it no longer possible to sell these objects at public auction for profit. It would create incentives for these objects to be returned. And finally, the 5th bill would replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day statewide. There are dozens of cities and towns that have done this already, but unfortunately, not everywhere has done it, and some municipalities have doubled down on holding on to Columbus Day. Of course, we want to honor Italian Americans, but I'm secretly just like, why didn't they pick Leonardo da Vinci? I'd love to have Da Vinci Day. That's not what happened, and we need to heal that and create a day that celebrates Indigenous people. So that's it. Those are the 5 bills. Nothing too complicated. No-brainer steps that would move us closer to healing our relationship with the past harms that happened and begin to move all of us closer to those values, the generosity and the other pieces of what it would look like to live in our UU values that are aligned with Indigenous values. I want to take a step back and say a little more about what I mean, because I think sometimes when I say I want to live an Indigenous worldview, what can come up is this idea like we're going to go backwards, we're going to live in wigwams or something. It is not at all what I mean. I mean living in a world where generosity is core, where there's a relationship to land. I look at your Easter flowers and I see it right there, the celebration of spring. What if that were deeply embedded throughout everything? It would be a modern world. We'd still have showers and the internet, but it would be structured differently. It would be based around relationships and connection. And having this vision of where we're going, I think is really important. I can get depressed about the state of the world, and sometimes social justice work can feel like running around whack-a-mole, fix this injustice, fix that oppression, fix that wrongdoing, and it can feel exhausting, like pushing that, rock up the hill, everything's wrong. Whenever I talk to my mother, she's always down in the dumps about the election, right? And so having this idea that we could actually return to a way that we all used to live across the entire world, based in generosity, that's the thing that keeps me going. Knowing that this is all going to work out. And so I want to bring that optimism to you. I want to invite you to dream that an entirely different world is possible, inevitable, core to who we are. That yearning for a connected world is emergent. It can't be repressed. Just like I knew on some level as a kid when I went into that store in the Kingston Mall and knew there's something here. There's some truth here about being connected to the world. And so I want to offer you to join me at UU Mass Action. I want to offer you to join me in offering your hat to other people. I've brought with me today interest cards. Maybe you filled one out last year. You can always fill one out again if you didn't. Because we're going to go there. We're going to go to the State House together. We're going to work towards building power and healing what needs to be healed. So thank you all so much. I appreciate this space and the community you've built. I think it is on exactly the right path. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Claire-Karl for their inspiring words. I love it when you visit us, so thank you for being here. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, which is number 121. It says 131 in your order of service, but that is incorrect. It is 121 in the gray hymnal, We'll Build a Land.
Where we find the broken, we'll build a
we go in peace so that we may build a land where justice flows down like streams. And may we know our interdependence and connection to each other and this earth today and every day. Go in peace. Amen.
Cherokee. It's called Cherokee. Yeah. What is it? It's just a tune called Cherokee. Oh, he's playing to me. No, he's playing. Oh, thank you. Yeah.